So I'm going to ask you whether or not they have each met their promise in their storytelling. But first, we're going to watch clips from the opening statements on each side. So let's look at it together.
Patrol car after patrol car came to the scene. Some of the patrol cars you will hear, some of the patrol officers went to the back of the building. And Cody Etherton was in some danger because at that point, no one knew that he was actually in a separate apartment. So there were guns pointed at him as he stood in the shattered and put his hands out this shattered glass and saw guns pointed at him from these patrol that came. So that's part of the circumstances that were created by the defendant in apartment 3. That's part of the circumstances that you will hear about.
In any event, ladies and gentlemen, be that as it may, no matter what the evidence shows, Detective Hankison returned fire, and you have to understand, I think everybody that was out there is going to tell you that this entire incident, after the knocking and announcing had occurred, and after the breach had occurred, the entire incident lasted from anywhere from 5 to 15 seconds. Nobody had a stopwatch and timed it exactly, but it was all instantly. Officer Mattingly was shot. He returned fire. Officer Cosgrove was next to him. He returned fire. And Brett Hankison slipped around the side, as you saw on the photograph that was up there, and he returned fire in the direction of where he had seen the original shot come from within the apartment. He was attempting to defend and save the lives of his brother officers who he thought were still caught in what they call the fatal funnel in that doorway.
Okay, so right there, we were looking at the opening statements, both prosecution and defense. Let's look at the prosecution first. Did they meet their storytelling criteria before we head into closing tomorrow?
I think they did. I don't want to be overly critical of the prosecution. I think this is a difficult case for her, and it's not really the story that I think some people wanted to tell. I think that, people wanted this to be about Breonna Taylor, and of course it isn't. But when I look at her just straight up trial advocacy and storytelling skills, it wasn't as straightforward of why a jury might at the end of the day convict. On the other hand, I thought that the defense attorney to go back and talk about what we were just talking about, the excitement, the rush of everything, how the fog of war, if you will. This is what the defendant's attorney did in his opening statement. He described this very quick event without time to think about it, and you did get that. When you were listening to the trial, that none of this happened over a long period of time. It happened in a matter of seconds. And so I think that there was delivery on both of them, but I think that I was particularly impressed with the way that the defense put on their case.